Good evening. Yes, and welcome to the Twitch stream takeover slash Facebook first time live takeover slash Google live slash first time takeover of the DragonCon digital media track feed. My name is Sean Weiland, also known as Male NPC and a wasted knowledge bartender, and I'm here with a friend of mine, September.
Hi, I'm September, also known as 9 of 12. What?
I had like 13 thoughts go through my head. Like, you shouldn't say any of those. Just shut up and keep talking, Sean. So September and I have known each other for a couple years now, and we've gotten to work together before. And when I was told, hey, you can do this takeover-y thing, and you can do whatever you want, and I was like, oh man, there's so many options. But recently, September, you and I have started kind of working on new tiddly bits, and so I thought this would be really a nice way to get us back on a show together.
Or tipply bits in it, anyway.
The tipply bits. Yes. So I thought it would be fun to have you come on with me as we navigate having a stream to ourselves for an hour or so. Would you like to give a little background as to your presence in the digital space, or just even just your professional, personal interests? Who are you?
Sure. Who am I? Well, my little tagline I have going in my 9of12.com, where you can find all my other stuff, is I'm a mother, a maker, a pagan, a politician, an ally, and an advocate. I spent about 15 years in politics. I don't do that anymore, unless the price tag is right. I've been podcasting for a number of years now, 7 or 8 years. I'm currently doing the Part-Time Gamers podcast. I did a 6-year stint on Geek Grills, which I loved, but we did close that down earlier this year. It was all hosted by women because we felt needed that space. What else? I've been organizing the Tadpool Southeast meetup for the last couple of years, which has been loads of fun. I'm a gamer, a lot of D&D tabletop stuff. I don't do a lot of that online yet. I make jewelry. I dabble in cocktail making. I, make t-shirts, and I just make stuff like sausage from scratch and bacon. So, I'm a good person. I can make bacon from scratch.
Does that like involve like part of the butchering process? Like you're making bacon like from like you get a bit of.
I'll get like 10, 15 pounds of belly, and then I'll have to remove the stuff that you make like chicharrones out of, and then cure the belly and smoke it and stuff like that.
Okay, I'll be honest. I didn't know exactly what part chicharrones came from. I know the
It's the
delicious.
rind. Like it's actual skin.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, so
Yeah.
I thought someone said skin before, but then you said pork belly, and so it's the skin of the belly.
It's the skin. Well, you can make it of any of the skin. I just deal with taking the skin when you get pork belly, a lot of times it'll still have the skin, and you got to remove that because you don't have to. You can stipple it, and you can do something where that turns into a crispy, yummy bit. But if you're just making, flat out belly bacon, you strip that off.
Gotcha.
There's a lot involved. I mean, I do butcher butts to make sausage and stuff it and deal with like the actual intestinal, stuff to stuff, sausages. And
This is a good graphic start. I like it.
yeah, sure, why not?
Awesome.
But yeah, I make stuff. Content and physical things.
Very cool. And for anyone that doesn't know me, that might be watching, my name is Sean. I'm a game developer by day. I was bartender for 16 years, so I also enjoy the libations and making cocktails specifically. And I also like making stuff. So I've been a luthier for a long time. I make instruments out of boxes, all kinds, cigar boxes and wine boxes, because of my bartending employment. Gosh, and I mean, I just like making stuff. So really along the same lines. Fixing things is fantastic. Once I got a 3D printer a couple of years ago, I was like, oh, I can just think of things that I need and make them. This is great. And yes, and I'm a voice actor, so I work in video games and commercials. And I did my first cartoon pilot a few months ago, and I got into podcasting probably about 10 years ago, but not really as a host or anything, really just as an actor. I wouldn't have, when people say they're podcasters, I was like, no, I'm just an actor that happens to be on a podcast. That's how I felt about it. I know that's not how everyone would be like. No, it's a very inclusive community, which I've always enjoyed. But it took me like a couple years to be like, maybe I am. I helped edit some episodes, and I helped do this and that.
See,
And
yeah. I mean, we should probably, I forgot, I neglected to mention the one we met on, right?
no, we didn't. But so, how did we meet?
America's Next Top Podcaster.
Yeah,
Yes.
we were co-contestants. Is that what, I don't know? Or we could just say we were contestants on the same season, I guess.
Yeah,
that's descriptive enough.
because we worked together and
Yeah.
competing, right?
What really we worked together until I got kicked off in the great Shaunaning.
Yes, the Shaunaning. For those of you that didn't listen to season 4 of America's Next Top Podcaster, coincidentally, the first elimination, like all the Shauns, and there were 3 Shauns, got eliminated at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, it makes for good television or podcasting.
But I loved working with the Shauns. I'm still working with one of the Shauns on Part-Time Gamers, and I'm working on a new show with you, and I'm here with you now. And I brought you back for the finale of America's Next Top Podcaster, because I didn't win, but I did make it to the finale.
Well, you were top 2, right? I mean, that was, yeah. I mean, that's, at that point, that's splitting hairs. That just comes down to judges' preference, to me. Personally.
Yeah, sure.
And if you go back and listen to them, I think it really does come down to that.
I think so too. And that was a good show that kind of, I guess, birthed the idea for the one we're going to do, right? Because we were talking about history of brewing.
Well, so both. Well, how many times? What did we make? 3, and then the four shows, including the finale. And I want to say 2 or 3 of them, at least half, involved alcohol in some fashion.
Well, we named our team One Last Drink.
Oh, that's right. Yes. So it couldn't be avoided. So I mean, it came out very early that we both have an interest in alcohol, and more so than just consuming it. So so it's kind of worked out that we met each other on there, worked on that kind of content, and that's what we're pursuing in the future. Pardon.
Yeah, right there.
I started like 10 minutes before the show, but I'm already like.
See, I'm a good girl. I haven't even opened my bottle yet.
Ooh, do you want to talk about what we're drinking today?
Sure.
Do you want to go first? I couldn't tell if that was gin or scotch.
Well, that's because it is a barrel-aged gin, Cardinal Gin, which is brewed very close to me in Kings Mountain, North Carolina. And I discovered this some years ago through a mixologist at an event, and it is lovely. Like gin that it doesn't need to be in a cocktail. It can be a sipping gin. It's got wonderful gin qualities, but still is a nice brown, rich liquor.
Excuse me.
If I can open it, no. Oh, oh! All right, that's a terrible noise. I'll have to mute while I open it.
I was just looking at the comments. So I need to grab a glass real quick.
Yes, of course. Drink with us.
Everyone drink. So I'm drinking sake. And I was gonna make a cocktail until I realized I didn't have a whole lot of ingredients in house, and I was like, "Oh no!" And so I mean, I still could, but for now, I've just started on sake, and because it's one of my easy sipper go-tos. I don't, you can have a decent volume, but it's not super high proof, so you can sip on it and drink for a while and not get all that crazy.
Hot or cold?
So I usually drink it cold, and there's a whole lot that goes around about sake as far as whether you should drink it hot, whether you should drink it cold. Or is it the cheap sake that they warm up to keep you from getting the flavor, or getting a lot of the notes that they don't want you to get because it's cheap? Or does it serve cold for the same reason, kind of like you might think of vodka? A lot of it, I've done this multiple times, where I'll buy like a whole series of sake from from a sake maker, and I'll split them at half, and I'll do, or thirds. I'll do cold, room temperature, and warm, and try them each different ways. And it kind of depends on the sake. I've had really really nice ones that do taste better warm, and vice versa. They come out better cold. So in my experience and in my opinion, it really comes down to which one it is. And you'll have to pardon me. My allergies are just killing me,
Yeah,
because I
I'm
moved
not.
last year and I'm in a new place, and they're like, no,
Oh, that happens. Yeah.
your body's going to reject everything.
Yeah, I don't drink sake cold very often. There's a local brewery that has sake cocktails, and I just have trouble wrapping my brain around it. But I do love. I was just on a cruise, and we went to a Japanese, steakhouse, throwing all the stuff around, making noise, and I got some hot sake. I do love a good hot sake when it's cold outside.
I mean, there's something, and I think it's due to the rice base in sake, that makes it similar when it's warmed up to brandy, where it kind of has that nice, warming, soothing quality to it. Like you wouldn't, I don't think, you wouldn't really drink a hot gin. Love the sound of that cork.
Such a problem.
But that's, I think sake is smooth enough and fine enough, like a brandy, that it benefits from being warm.
And what do gin and brandy have in common?
I'm gonna not make your mother joke.
No, actually, I guess it's not in common, but part of gin's popularity at one point was due to the fact that brandy had gotten outlawed.
I was gonna say sailors, just in general.
Yeah, sure.
A lot of brandy in the shipping business.
I am going to drink this on ice, not neat.
That seems fair.
Yeah, I'm not going to go with the whole old-fashioned situation because I am short and orange, but I do have my homemade maraschinos. Speaking of making things,
Oh, nice.
I intend to send you a jar of these. By the way, I canned them after consulting with a canning expert on whether that could be done safely.
Oh yeah, you could totally can them. That's. I see all these little comments down there, and I'm just like looking real quick.
Whiskey and ginger ale. This cork is now being squeaky the other direction.
Just gonna be half the show, just cork sounds.
Yeah, sure, why not?
Do I have any corks back here? I do.
Pro audio content.
Let's see. We'll just wet my cork here. Oh, it's. Never mind. It's not big enough.
That's what she said.
Well, story of my life.
You see my glass? I've got Sally from The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Oh, nice. That is just completely unrelated to everything except Sally and Nightmare Before Christmas. I got the 13-foot Jack Skellington that they had for sale at Home Depot. They had like 3 of them, so I assume there's limited quantities at most Home Depots. It's still up in my yard. I have an HOA. I'm gonna see. I'm just gonna write it out. I ordered a Santa hat for him. And
there you go.
Let me keep him up for Christmas.
Yes.
So, hopefully.
I have a friend who puts giant skeleton in her yard, and the HOA went after her, and so she just started dressing it for different holidays. Yes.
I approve.
They're like, it's not appropriate to the season. Well, I mean, you can't do that with Jack until after Christmas, at least.
Ooh, New Year's Jack. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna have to look into that. If anyone knows, by the way, just in general, any any Etsy crafters that make clothing for Jack Skellington, roughly a 13-foot suit, maybe a reflective or anything New Year's Eve looking, let me know, because I could use that. Ooh, and also I have a Sally poster up in my window at the front of my house that looks like she's looking at Jack in my lawn. So it was all
Aw,
composed that way. And
lovely.
I am a fan. And I forgot it was the 30th anniversary this year.
I went to see it in the theater due to that. Friend
Oh,
of mine.
like a re-release, not like you remember going to see it in the theater.
No, like yeah. A couple weeks ago, a friend of mine was like, "I got tickets for us to go see it in the theater." Yes,
That's pretty sweet. I like that.
it was fantastic. It's really, I mean, you've seen it on the TV 100 times by now, or I have.
Mhm.
I mean, I had watched it a few days before that, but on the big screen, little details that, reflection of Jack's eyes in the grove. You can see, the trees reflected in his eye sockets on that big screen, and it was just really a sight. And having the sound surrounding you.
Yeah. Hmm. That's cool. I like that. So you mentioned, besides drinking the aged gin this evening,
Mhm.
that you would have done an old fashioned if it weren't for your lack of orange. Is that one of your go-to cocktails?
It is. Um, and I've learned a lot more about them just in the last year. I grew up making them a certain way, for my family. They were really into old fashions and Manhattans. I started mixing when I was probably 9 or 10, like at the holidays. I knew how to make a Manhattan sweet, dry, or perfect, and some people wanted a twist, and some people wanted a cherry, and yeah, I learned that early. Um, but they're old fashioned. They like muddling the fruit and everything.
Yep.
Um,
To the like pulverized fruit, you mean, or
yeah,
just?
muddled, and but like put orange and lemon and cherry, and you mash it all up, and then put your whiskey in, and then some soda water and all this.
Mm,
That's what I thought an old fashioned was until just in the last year or so, and started to learn a little bit more and get interested in. Well, no better bourbons for a long time now. I was into just bourbon, but not so much mixing as just drinking.
mm.
Um, but just proper old fashions where it's a lot fewer ingredients than that. And over this summer, I first enjoyed some smoked drinks,
Mhm.
including a smoked old fashioned that was delightful. And my wonderful husband promptly bought me a smoker. So I came home and started smoking everything for a bit, and I haven't done it yet, but it is part of why I purchased this bottle of the Cardinal Barrel Aged Gin to make a old fashioned with that and smoke it.
Mm. That would be good, especially. I mean, that looks like a pretty dark gin, so I would think it's got like some good like I want to say sweetness, but like that kind of smooth feeling you get from wood aging. So not like smoky wood flavors, but like the barrel aging in general adds a smoothness to alcohol.
Hmm.
Um, so that looks like it's pretty deep in color. So it would be a fairly
It
toasty
really,
gin.
really is. I love gin. I make all kinds of cocktails with gin, and I will drink a gin and tonic all day long.
Mm.
Matter of fact, I drank a lot of it on the cruise, but I prefer at home. I keep elderflower tonic in the house because that's like my preferred regular drink. But the barrel age, just some ice.
Yeah.
It is a sipping gin. And it's one of those, like somebody says they don't like gin, they'll drink this. I promise. Just don't even tell them it's gin. They'll be fine. Because, like, you really have to be paying attention to pick out that it's got botanicals.
Hmm.
Because the barrel aging does really give it a whiskey quality.
Yeah. But it's I mean it's still distinct in its flavor. But yeah, maybe it's just that it tones down the botanicals, but they're still there. But what did that made me think of? Oh, just
Well, the cardinal in particular isn't very strong with the juniper,
oh
I
no.
will say. No. They use a lot of other stuff, and I was trying to find out what, and by the way, their website, just kinda they never updated it from when they actually started producing it.
Hmm.
So it doesn't even mention the barrel aged. You kinda have to go to other articles about it to even find out the history where these brothers got together and decided to buy an old mill and, uh, and start making the gin at all, but, juniper isn't their most forward of their botanicals.
That's okay. There's plenty of juniper forward gins out there. So,
I think that's the reason so many people think they hate gin.
well, it's there's a lot of low quality gins out there. I won't name names, but a lot of things have gotten better, like over the last 10, 15, 20 years of, there's not just a Old Tom or a Burnett's or sorry Seagrams, but
Bleh.
very good.
Yeah.
I bought it once because I was in college and I was listening to Snoop Dogg, and I was like, I need some Seagram's gin and some orange juice, and never again. No, but I derailed myself. Uh, Whenever people tell me now that they don't like gin, one of the first things I make them is a French 75 because gin in general, people do like gin. They just have had crappy gin and they haven't had it served in a way that works well with the gin. And a French 75, for anyone that doesn't know, is usually served in a champagne flute, a little bit of simple syrup, lemon juice, gin, and champagne. It's a very simple cocktail. And it's delicious. And you should only have two, because, or at least two in a short amount of time, because it will knock you down. But it's just it's a fantastic cocktail to kind of convey gin into your system. And I'm sorry, my allergies are killing me. I need to
Oh.
blow my noses. I'm alive again. Oh my god.
Oh,
Like the worst
thank
possible time for
goodness.
this to happen. And like my cat is right there on the floor. Like so I leaned over to blow my nose and she's just I don't
Oh.
care, Daddy. I also had to let her in my office for this because otherwise she'd be crying outside. Like super hard. Okay.
Uh,
Mm, sorry.
Shane in our chat, Shave Maddox, is mentioning the cocktail that I made at the East Coast Tadpole meetup
Oh
that
yeah.
you helped me develop. You came up with these wonderful flavors that would indeed go with gin because Coverville, Brian Ibbett and I are also gin drinkers. And I wanted something to go with the theme being up in the mountains, and I wanted musical theme. It's like Wild Mountain Time. I'm growing
No,
all this lemon thyme. Let's do this.
I don't think I wrote it down. No, normally it's in my little bookie book. No.
Oh, my bookie book is downstairs because I haven't unpacked from the cruise yet. Um, but let me see. It
Oh,
was
butts.
gin and lemon juice, rosemary simple,
Right.
and topped with ginger beer and garnished with lemon thyme. Aperol. That's what I forgot.
That's the other thing. Okay, I'm like, I think we're missing some Aperol. Yeah.
Yes, it had Aperol, which that was the trickiest part of getting the proportions down. There was a lot of mixing and tasting going on over here on my end to get that to balance out and not overtake,
Mhm.
especially with all the other herbal elements in there. Aperol was, it went from pretty pink, bringing everything out to, oh no, that's bitter. Like, and just a smidge different.
Aperol's tricky because it's the sweeter cousin to Campari, but it's still not for anyone that's used to like a sweet cocktail. It's not a sweet or a very sweet. That was aperitivo
I
cordial.
believe so. Okay.
No. Oh fudge! Wow, this is as an expert, I feel done with myself right now. All right, fine. I can just go look. I have a bottle down here.
There you go. Mine is also downstairs.
Oh, it is aperitivo. You know
It is
what?
aperitivo. See, you
High
were
five.
right.
All right.
Don't doubt yourself.
Aperol. Right. I should stop doing that. All right. I'm gonna put that back down though. I love my little bar space, which is cut off by the camera, but there's a whole bar top right in front of me. It's what I'm leaning on. They're like, yeah, it's good. Which, by the way, anyone that if you ever set up a home bar or your own dedicated cocktail space, get yourself drink mats. That'll just save you so much time and headache. They're like $15. This is a roughly 10 by 16 or 10 by 18 mat. I have two of them side by side. Yeah, and I've spilled so many times on this and been like, oh wait, I'm fine because I can just pick up my spill, drain it out, no worries. I don't know. It's not even a life hack. It's just if you're gonna make cocktails at home, just get yourself a mat. Don't make it on a towel. I mean, you do if in a pinch, but get a mat.
That's a fine idea.
The PSA from Sean.
I like to make them outdoors. We've got like a table we built, so there's kind of slats already in it, I guess.
All right, that's totally fine. Oh yeah, if it's something you can hose down, all right, you're fine.
Yeah, exactly. When I did them at the meetup, I was indoors, but I was pressed for. We were at a big Airbnb, and it's like, I don't know if they're gonna have. How many people do we have? Like 20, some odd, the same glass.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I had 2 shakers going because I had the non-alcoholic one and the alcoholic one, and pouring all this ginger beer and topping everything. And you know what I did? I bought a case of mason jars, jelly jars.
Mhm.
Perfect size for the cocktails we were making. Everything was uniform. Everything was, yeah. And then I can keep them and do stuff like this.
Double duty.
Just threw them in the dishwasher, took them home.
I have now for Dragon Con as the Dragon Con media app or media app, digital media track that we're on. I had made a cocktail for actually almost all of my shows. I made cocktails for, and one of them I made a 3-gallon cocktail in a dispenser, like one of those little jugs you might put like sun tea or something like that in. And it was great. It was for roughly 12 people plus the audience at the end. And then I spilled it at the end. So we got through the show. People had some drinks. I was packing things up. I set it on my cart, and then I nudged the cart on accident. And I didn't have drink mats out. You know, I know I say, hey, you should have drink mats. Well, no, the carpet caught most of it. And then we just kind of shyly walked out of the room.
Oh, no.
Our track director knows this because he brought it up last time. But I certainly, I had egg on my face and a lot of bourbon. A lot of bourbon.
Did you lay down the carpet and try to
on
suck
my
it
pants.
out?
Someone actually touched the carpet. Like it almost looked like they were going for it. They're like, maybe somehow I can osmose it out.
Wring out a towel.
Like, no, it's in there now. That's what conference center carpeting is for. It's absorbing all the evils of the world. It's really good.
Well.
Oh my God, I'm sorry. I had to.
So these are the kind of tips and tricks you're gonna get on our show, right? Bar equipment, drinks to make, get a bar mat so you don't do dumb stuff like that. You're still muted, dear.
Excellent. If anyone could read lips, then you know what I just said. It had to do with how babies are made. But yes, I, for as much as I like to think I know at least about alcohol and beverage service, certainly a lot of what I know is through making the mistakes. Like I see a behave. Storks, yes.
Storks, of course.
what's the term in our English language where a word is also a representation of a sound that is made?
Onomatopoeia.
Onomatopoeia. I think storks would be an onomatopoeia for me. Storks.
Only have
Anyway.
so many storks to give.
Bravo. But yeah, it's well, I love cocktails and I love bartending, and it'll always be something that's part of my life, which is why I wanted to work on a new show with you. So yeah. I was sorry. I was looking down at I wrote down when you asked me, "Do we have a plan for tonight?" And I was like, "Let me make a list." I don't know if I have any more fun facts about sake. It's Japanese.
Why would you say it like that?
Yes, it makes me laugh. No, there's a few fun things outside besides like the warm or cold thing. Also, a lot of times why they're served in these little glasses is, and I don't know any of the actual Japanese terminology because honestly, I am not part of the culture and the language, and so it's not something that I remember very well. But essentially, there's sort of a ritual tradition when you're drinking with someone that you don't pour your own drink; other people pour the drink for you. So a lot of times you have these small cups because it's easier to pour more drinks for people around you. So it kind of facilitates that tradition.
I knew that, and when I got some sake in this restaurant, dude came and just plopped it on the table and left.
Oh.
I sat there like, well, guess I'm pouring it myself. And it was like the bottle was hotter than hell, and he didn't have a towel. Like, I don't know if he
Oh.
threw it in the microwave. Yeah, the service on
When you
this
serve it in
cruise
a bottle
line.
or like a little jug?
It was the little jug with the spout thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this is my
yeah,
little
and a little ceramic sake cup.
yeah.
But he just put them on the table and he walked away. And I was like, well, I guess I'm pouring it myself, even though I know that's not all right. And then I went to grab it, and it was hotter than hell to the touch.
Mm.
I had to get my napkin to hold it to pour it. Yeah, that made me a little sad because it adds to the experience, right? Along with
Mhm.
just manners, little rituals like that added to a lot of drinks are special.
That it's yes, agreed, and that's for I mean anything in the restaurant industry or any service industry, but yeah, with sake especially, or I'm trying to think like with scotch, even just how you pour something. When you're as a server or as someone that's sitting there having their drink poured for them, when your bartender is paying attention to what they're doing, you can tell like, all right, they're pouring the right amount, they're not dripping across the bar. Those little things add so much to an experience because you're paying 200% more or more than retail. Yeah, I want to feel like this is a good experience.
Yeah. I also, when I ordered some wine, they just blub, 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 poured it up to the little line they have etched on the glasses for the amount you're supposed to get, which is, uh, I mean, fine, but it's a little tacky. Um, they didn't pour me a taste. They just poured it in and walked away.
Oh, did you order a bottle?
No, but uh, on your first glass,
Yeah, no, I mean,
I
so
would still do it as a server.
there's
I was sommelier trained, and
mhm.
I would still, if I was just pouring a glass, if I'm carrying the bottle around, I'm gonna give you the taste.
Oh, I see. Okay, we were thinking of different scenarios, so I'm on board. Sorry, did I interrupt?
Nope.
Okay, so I
I
was
mean,
gonna
I would
grab.
have done it. I would have been madder if I got the bottle and they didn't do it. I would have said something, but I was just getting a glass, so I didn't say anything.
Sorry, there's a whole glass rack off screen, or there's two glass racks. Oh no, but I was grabbing this because this is a fun fact. Fun fact. So you said that there's an etched mark. So most of the time when you're serving wine, it's a 6-ounce pour. I give or take. Some places do a little bit more, some places do a little bit less. but on every glass, it should always be 6 ounces just past the apex of the curvature of the glass. So you'll see like really, really fat glasses, for reds,
Yeah.
for like Cabernets. But still, the ratio of that going out and the apex of the curvature of the glass will still hit you 6 ounces. So really in this glass it would be right about here.
Hmm.
That's just one thing that, okay, yeah, it's a little bit of a rough geometry because you have to eyeball it, but you'll always be within half an ounce if you kind of follow that rule. So fun facts. But it can be really helpful because it's part of service and part of drinking is especially the way glasses. So this is a white glass, but you want to have enough volume for your aromatics to sit in the glass and to hit your nose as you sip, because you're tasting through your nose as much as you are, or actually more so than you are tasting through your mouth. So it's important. It's important you do that right. You don't want to shortchange people or your guests, and you don't want to get them too drunk and not be able to actually taste their wine correctly. Unless it's something like Franzia, then go for
I mean, with
it.
box of wine, who cares, right?
You can have your box and drink it too.
Although I shouldn't say that. Box wine has really, really come leaps and bounds. Just like screw top wine. There is no need to have an attitude about screw top wine or even box wine anymore. Like, we're now using these technologies to our advantage.
I wholly on board with screw top, because you just get a better seal. I do enjoy the ritual and the service of uncorking wine.
Me too.
That being said, screw tops work better, and if you can even recycle your screw tops, that's even better, because then you're not destroying trees, which cork comes from, cork trees, there's already a shortage of cork. So maybe we could do better as a species there. Box wine, it's same deal. It's a good way of storing wine. I don't think. I guess maybe. I guess all segments from consumers to winemakers have bought into using it, because it's still generally cheap wines that are in those boxes. Generally.
Generally, I mean, but cheap and cheap. I mean, there's cheap wine that's plenty good. Um, I like something like Franzia, right? Doesn't touch something like the Bota box wines are quite good. Something like, was it Big Red Truck or whatever? Like,
Mhm.
that's perfectly acceptable for like a wedding where you're serving a ton of wine, and you're going to go through it. I keep Bota in the house. They make a Nighthawk Black that, to me, it's almost exactly the same as um, one of my favorites. What's it called? Shoot, slipping my mind. They make these Apothic Dark.
Oh
I
yeah.
love Apothic Dark. It's not an expensive wine. You can get it for $10 a bottle, but it's an excellent blend. And the Nighthawk Black is pretty much freaking identical. And I can get a box for $20, so it's like 3 bottles instead of 2 for that. And then I've got it on hand to cook with without having to use a whole bottle.
I would lean towards that's cooking territory. Now, I say that having worked for a place where like our wine list was award winning.
Mhm.
Uh, so I don't want to say we bordered on pretentious, but we were certainly more so in that zone. And one of my first alcohol serving jobs was at a winery. Um, so seeing that side of it, a lot of wineries buy their juice from other places and blend their juice with their own grapes. That's fine. That's a practice that happens. Same thing with a lot of whiskeys. You can have straight whiskey and you can have blended whiskey. And there's good blended whiskeys out there. However, I think more so with wine, I tend to get picky about it because I started to learn the differences in the flavor of grapes.
Mhm.
And once you get wines where you can expect that taste, and you get to that going over the blends. Maybe it's because that knowledge disappears, so you don't get to use the thing that you learned, you developed your palate on, or it's kind of disappointing. No, perfectly drinkable, agreed. Um, I tend to get a little bit of a hangover from those. That's just me, and maybe it's my brain going, "It's bad wine." But
Maybe
I
because I didn't
have a
drink
harder time drinking those.
blends until fairly recently, and I was
Mhm.
also sommelier trained.
Yeah.
Um, Running into having a favorite, I drank nothing but Cabernets for a few years, and then
Mhm.
I was really, really on Merlots for a few years, and then some old vine Zins in
Mm.
the mid '90s were just stellar. And then a couple bad years, and like, well, damn it, and then you can't find the that thing you want, and you're trying, and then you find a blend that is giving those qualities you want, and I
Mm.
became
Okay.
much more amenable to trying blends, especially when it's not a good couple of years for what your preferences are, because you can get to closer to it.
There's a part of me that's hoping, because that the exactly what you're saying is a problem with wine. It's wonderful because you get different years, you get differences from the same exact spot in the world. But it's disappointing because then you can't go back and get that wine that you like because it just doesn't exist anymore. I
Or
really
some
hope.
wine magazine writes up that one you're in love with and the price triples. That's my favorite.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, same issue with whiskey. But what the point I was getting to is just with like hydroponic growing and indoor growing of plants. There's a part of me that really hopes that eventually that'll happen with at least some wine, where we could take old vines, grow them in a temperature controlled setting, environmentally controlled setting, and maybe get that best of Chateau whatever 1978. That'd be cool. That would be interesting because a lot of that stuff's out of my price range still. Like I'm not gonna be able to drink that unless like I have a guest that comes in. Every once in a while, I'd get like an ounce or two pour from like this ancient bottle. And I'd be like, ooh,
Mm.
fun, and that is really cool. But yeah, oh well. Um,
And Shave Maddox mentions canned wine.
yes, I've had canned wine. House wine is I think one of the popular distributed brands out there. It comes in a can. Oh yeah, and there's canned wine.
I was mortified by the idea. Um, but there was a wine that my son and his wife had been trying for their wedding, Underwood, and they didn't like it, and they gave me the rest of the bottle, and it was really neat. It wasn't something I would drink all the time. It was smoky. Um,
Ooh,
yeah, like, how did you even do that? Did you do that on purpose? Smoky tasting. And I was like,
I'm excited. That
man,
sounds
I want
awesome.
this for cooking, right? I wanna do some pot roast with this, and that's gonna be ridiculous. Or
Oh,
deglazing some au poivre sauce for a steak, like, with that, I wanted. So, I was in the grocery store one day, and I noticed they had it in cans, and I'm like, "Well,
hmm.
that's handy because it's gonna keep. It's gonna be the right amount for using in a recipe." And, when we were in Asheville,
Yeah.
I saw it, and Shane was looking at it, and I was like, "I've had that. I don't know if you're gonna like it because it's weird. It's, like, smoky, it's good, but it's so smoky, it's weird." And he ended up buying some, and I tried some, and it wasn't as smoky, so apparently
Hmm.
it's not all consistent, either.
Might have gotten the feedback. So speaking of smoky, I keep. Oh wait, am I interrupting your story? I'm sorry.
Nope,
Okay.
I'm done. Good.
Um, so my mind twice has gone over to whiskeys, and this is specifically with when you're aging a whiskey to get something woody or smoky. Smoky, of course, is Scotch, where you actually smoke your peat. But the biggest thing to me that new distillers make a mistake on is releasing their whiskey too young, because you want some wood, You want that extra color, like you were showing me with the gin. I mean, I'm guessing that's at least a year old, probably 2. It's a dark gin,
Mhm.
but the way you get that color unless you artificially add color, is by just letting it sit on the wood. So whenever I see like Rose, we have a new distillery here in whatever town where they never had distillery before. They've been in business for 2 years. Now they released their first whiskey, which is not promising at that point, because that means they probably didn't throw it into barrels at least until 6 months in.
Yeah, we've got one of those here.
And you're like, oh wow, it's really light colored. Okay, well, I guess I'll take a little sip. Moonshine. It's moonshine. Oh
Yes.
god,
Yes. Oh my
it
gosh. I
tastes like wet
toured one.
cardboard.
I toured one a couple years ago. I'm gonna go back, but I was like, none of this, none of this should be being served yet.
I won't throw out names, but when I lived in Atlanta, there was a distillery that did a Scotch American whiskey, but in a Scotch style, and then we were all excited. And it's a really fancy bottle, freaking expensive. I had some at the actually, you know what? We had some at the restaurant I worked at. I was so excited. I wanted to be so respectful. I went to a different bar and ordered it. I drank it neat. I drank it with a chunk of ice, then added water to it. Finally, I added Coke to it. And finally, I just said, "Can I get something else?" Because it was that bad. It
Yeah.
was awful. Uh, it's worth for whether it's wine or gin or whiskey or beer. It's worth waiting until you have it right. And like I know there's like we have investors and we have things we have to do. Well, you're going to go out of business if you release a bad product.
Exactly. Now,
Uh,
what about tannins, though? Because this is something I know a few people who've been having problems the last couple of years, and we've been trying to sort out exactly where it's coming in, where they're having like a histamine reaction. And it happens to me on occasion, once in a
mhm.
while, a red wine. I will get sniffles. I will get like an allergy type reaction to a red, but only occasionally. But I know I have a friend who it happens to consistently, and she also cannot drink barrel aged beers or whiskey. She gets the same thing. And she thinks it's a reaction to the tannins, to something in the wood, and maybe in particular, maybe in pine, maybe in walnut. But I know a handful of
Sure.
people who have this kind of thing, but it seems the common denominator seems to be something about the barrels.
So normally we age things in oak. That's the most the
Okay.
common wood for aging.
Right, right. Oh,
French or New American or Old American, depending on where it's getting shipped and who's it's doing, what's it's for. Um, I've never heard of a tannin allergy. I wouldn't be too terribly surprised, being that just about everyone can have a tannin not
mhm.
tannin allergy. Everyone can have an allergy to a thing. But I've never heard of that. And I have a
To the
small
oak.
human approaching me. One second, let me talk to my small human.
Baby humans are so cute. That's why we don't eat them. I understand he's got a little one that is ill, so we can be patient. Any questions from our folks in the chat? Yes, I am struggling to get this cork back in. It's very persnickety. It's not real cork, so it does not want to go back in the bottle, and I cannot possibly drink this all quickly. Well, I would call this my favorite gin, except it is so different and unique, and being barrel aged, it doesn't taste like any other gin. Um, favorite is hard to say. I like different gins for different things. That's why it's really hard. My go-to gin I keep in the house all the time is actually New Amsterdam. It's a very inexpensive gin, so I can keep it all in the house all the time, but it has angelica as well as juniper, so I really like the flavor. But if I had a favorite, I actually I'm gonna say Hendrix. I really love Hendrix. It's very versatile. It's it's got different florals in it. It is not harsh. And for mixing the greatest variety of cocktails, Hendrix is top notch.
Also throw in there Martin Miller's wonderful gin. Yeah, that one's, oh gosh, there's another one I'm trying to think of too.
There's a couple like small batch ones. I don't want to mention because then like you're not gonna be able to get them. You're gonna have to like drive to a certain place and get them from the distillery or the one place you can get them. So that's not a good answer for most people either.
Yeah, although that, I mean, that is good. So that's a good point though. So vodka and gin, much easier to produce. It's something basically when a distiller opens up, those are the first couple of things they make are vodka and gin. So there's a lot of local distilleries that opened up in the last few years as things have become deregulated. Do go check those out because you can get good stuff usually relatively cheap. And of course, once a distillery opens or releases a whiskey, then they're like, why am I paying $80 for this whiskey that I've never had before? And it's your first one you've released, and I'm probably not going to do that. But the flip side of that is usually their vodkas and gins are $30 or cheaper, and you can get something pretty great and local that uses local botanicals. Is there a happy medium between coconut rum and alcohol used to disinfect wounds? Oh yes. Plantation rum makes I think it's a pineapple rum. It's like it's a dark pineapple rum. That's really really great. Yeah, you closed it. There's also a hamster cage next to right off camera. So we were making sure that it was closed. But yeah, Plantation makes a really good. It's not super sweet. It doesn't have that fake fruit or flavored taste that like Malibu and other things like that will have. So was it they have a pineapple rum, they have an OMFG rum. They do add, so if someone listening or watching is like a super rum fanatic, they do add sometimes sugar to their rums to sweeten them a little bit, not like an intense amount, but to soften it and round it out. But they've also been called out by other fans and aficionados and distillers for doing that. That being said, they're a relatively inexpensive quality brand. So if you're on the fence between, I don't know, Bacardi or Sailor Jerry or anything else that's kind of in that low mid tier, Plantation's going to be the same price but be a bit better.
So you had a question for me because I went on this cruise to Bermuda and I was going to be sampling some Dark and Stormies. And are they better on the island than not? I'm going to say yes. Now, I have little doubt that you could make me a fantastic Dark and Stormy. I'm going to say that the Dark and Stormies I got on the cruise line were trash, invariably. And you would think they go to Bermuda every week, they'd get some clue. I had them ranging from, this just tastes like lime for some reason, to, I'm just going to put some rum and ginger ale in a glass. Some weren't using ginger beer at all. They used a ginger syrup and some other, and Sprite, and I don't know. Every bartender had a different idea of what was supposed to be happening, and there was no consistency. And I knew, I mean, my expectations weren't that high. Like some rum and some ginger beer, and we're gonna be okay. And then I got to Bermuda, and I went to a place called the Frog and Onion, which is hilarious. Being with the French colonizers and the Bermudans being known for onions, they literally this place called Frog and Onion, and I got a Dark and Stormy there, and it was beautiful with that darker rum floating there, and it was delicious. It was from the first sip just heavenly, and I did not ask for some bizarre reason what kind of ginger beer they used, even though I am a fanatic about ginger beer and I have 4 different kinds in my house right now. I neglected to ask them. I got so just completely overtaken and enamored with this drink. But I can find out because I know a local now and he will get that for me. So yeah, that was amazing and an entirely different drink than I have had called a dark and stormy anywhere else, especially on the damn ship. I also discovered Gosling's rum
Mhm.
on the trip, and I had been unaware that they made rum. I don't know if
Oh,
in my
yeah.
head I and
So
that's wonderful.
they I would say technically, no, they do own the trademark for Dark and Stormy. Uh, so they're
Oh,
if
okay.
you're technically, so they do have the trademark, but I think the technical part is if you're to put it on your menu, uh, that if you say we serve a Dark and Stormy, it has to be Gosling's Dark and Gosling's Ginger Beer.
Well,
Um,
then I guess I know my answer.
well, so but I don't know about Bermuda if that they still if they own
Well, they were
the
using
rights
the
on those.
Gosling's rum.
Okay. Someone someone put up the Goslings website.
Uh-huh.
What's the difference between ginger beer and ginger ale? I don't know about the making process, but ginger beer generally has a much less sugar added to it, and I will say generally because reeds can go away.
Reed's
Um,
is no.
it's garbage. But you'll have fresh ginger as an ingredient instead of like ginger extract, like
I
ginger
show
ale,
a picture of
and
this
less
dark and
sugar.
stormy, by the way.
Nice.
It was beautiful and delicious.
That's pretty. That's yeah. That is pretty a pretty serving presentation. But yeah, so if you think ginger beer, you're gonna get something that's ginger spicy and fizzy. Ginger
Mhm.
ale, you're gonna get Schweppes, which they're fine. But
I don't even like Schweppes. Like, even for my ginger ale, I prefer Canada Dry it because
mm,
it actually at least tastes like ginger. But ginger beer, it's got that little bite to it. I think they use more of the actual root instead of starting an extract in the brewing process. I believe that's the main difference. It's not like an extract or syrup added
mhm.
to soda water. It's made more like root beer. It's brewed.
Oh, yeah, that would make that's why they would call it ginger beer.
Hmm.
Oh my goodness, brain. I've never actually seen ginger beer made, so silly me. I've been to gin a, ah, a root beer brewer before. Oh,
You take over for a second. There's
mm.
something else I need to give a shout out to.
All right, shout outs are
So
happening. Let's see. So I had on my notes drinking stories. So, well, since September just shared traveling and getting those dark and stormies, I suppose I should share more drinky travels as well. And I'm trying to think, what has been going on recently while I was at Dragon Con? I went over to a voiceover conference recently where I was making cocktails for people. And, hmm, what would be interesting about that? I probably shouldn't be sounding that out loud. My bad. So one of my favorite cocktails, also along the lines of an old fashioned, is called a Tom Riddle, and it is kind of like a Sazerac and an old fashioned smooshed together. And in general, those are all in the same family. Old fashioned kind of being like the start of it, or the general category those all fit into. A Sazerac is supposed to be rye, and an old fashioned is usually bourbon. Although, fun fact, this is what I was getting to. The originally published recipe for an old fashioned used a high rye bourbon. So bourbon has to be 51% corn and then a mixture of your other grains. And in this case, it was like a 35% or 40% rye in the bourbon. So it was a super, super spicy bourbon that was used in the first old fashioned. Um, September, what did you grab?
Okay, so while I was in Bermuda, I played a one-shot D&D game. It was a D&D cruise, by the way.
Mm.
Yeah, nerd cred. So this wonderful Alan person ran a one-shot game for us, and he owns a place called the Bermuda Rum Cake Company,
Ooh.
and he made a special version of his rum cakes for the cruise attendees, and they called them dwarven rations. And each one that we ordered came with a dye in it. And we were able to taste them while we were there, and they were amazing. We had a traditional and a ginger rum cake and a coconut rum cake. And me and Rob may have ordered 8 of them. And
Ooh.
then he gave us, there was a discount he forgot to apply, so he just threw more in. So we literally came home with 8 pounds, like 10 rum cakes. We had a suitcase full of rum cake. But they are these wonderful, delightful. This one is the ginger. It's called the Perfect Storm rum cakes. And they are just, I can't describe how epic, because they're moist and they've got a nice fluff to them. But unlike a lot of rum cakes, like when you make them at home or whatever, and you put all the rum in the batter and then you bake them and it kind of bakes off, these are infused after the baking. So they are rummy rum cakes. So I have several. I'm mailing some to my dad because his birthday was the other day. And I'm sharing some with my D&D group. You can find them at BermudaRumCakes.com, and they use Cockspur rum. They are made in Bermuda. I don't know if you are familiar with that rum. I was not. I wish I had noticed, and then I would have grabbed some at the duty free, perhaps. But
generally, that's a yes.
They're so good, and you can order online. They ship all over the place, and because of the way they're made, they last like a long time. I was looking at the dates on this. This has a use by of January 2024. So I highly recommend all of them for gifting. They're delicious. They're not expensive. They're like $20, and they make them in Swizzle rum cake. Swizzle's some kind of official drink. By the way, everything is the official drink of Bermuda. Can we talk about this? I got there and there was some restaurant serving this is the official drink, and I went somewhere else and this is the official drink, and whatever. They have a chocolate that's mind-blowing.
Cake or just a chocolate?
The chocolate rum cake.
Oh, okay.
Chocolate rum cake was mind-blowing. So I don't know what if you would just write to them to try and get this ginger thing, but it's my favorite.
Oh, that sounds good. So we are coming up on an hour, a little over an hour. Do you want to share favorite drinking stories, or move on towards the finale, so to speak?
I don't know.
You know? Okay.
All the drinking already came with a story, right?
Yeah, that's true. Well, so we already kind of talked about like things we've worked on in the past. You want to talk about our new show that we're going to be doing together?
I am so excited about our new show. When are we going to start recording our new show? We have the episodes planned out. So any day now, we're going to start recording, and we're going to drop them week by week. We're going to do several seasons of this show that's already planned. You can go to our Patreon and sign up now to get really cool stuff. Like, we're going to talk about a drink each episode, and you can get all those recipes. Yeah. We're going to talk about the history. What?
I said we'll make videos of us making them.
Yes, especially you. You're a wildly entertaining mixologist, in my experience.
I've been told I'm fun to watch. I don't know exactly what that means, but
well, you're witty, and that mustache. But we're going to explore the history and practice of creating alcohol around the world. We will talk about tips and tricks. We'll talk about tools you should have. We'll talk about mixers. I think we're going to talk about pairings. I mean, the list is really long. We have both been putting a lot of thought and planning into this show.
Absolutely. And that's some of my favorite parts is sharing the knowledge of making and enjoying drinks and serving drinks and the history of, because that's part of it. Whenever you're having something, there's generally a lot of history behind the alcohol that you're having, whether it's from wine or beer or spirit, and even the things that are used to make them, like this kind of strainer, or this kind of strainer, or this kind of strainer. Yeah, wait, you're facing the camera. There we go. Like, they all serve a different purpose and came from different eras, and they all exist for a reason. So yeah, I think that's endlessly fascinating in the pursuit of enjoying alcohol, that all these things have come out of it. So yeah, and I just saw it streamed down past the bottom, like the link for it. It's called Tipple Theory, and yeah,
And so, yeah, the history too. Even if you don't drink, we're bound to hit on a lot of fascinating history, just like we did making the shows that we did for ANTP. Like, I didn't know that. And then both of us tended to deep dive on something new we learned, and we want to share all that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So with that in mind, so we're going to figure out a weekly date that we're going to record, probably earlier in the week. But that's just generally how I work. And here we go. As a tradition from one of my old shows, we used to do a thing called Mix Match Malort. Now, since we didn't really pre-coordinate this, I'm the only one playing. But September, you get to choose for me. I have 2 glasses that I poured before the show, and then basically forgot about. They should be roughly the same color and hue and level. But you get to tell me which one to drink. One of them has Malort, and one of them has Lillet. And
one of them has what?
Lillet.
I don't know what that is.
Lillet is a wine-based aperitivo. It's Italian, if I remember correctly. Gosh, I hope I'm right. Yeah, you know what? I'm right. We had this problem before. So it's used in a Vesper, one of the classic James Bond martinis. Or you can drink it by itself. It's actually quite wonderful. It's floral and light and just vaguely sweet. And Malort is the kind of the opposite of that. It is heinous and harsh. and I make my own, so it's a slightly bit more potent to the flavor department. So normally I would do a blind and make people choose their own, but since you have no idea which one I poured, you can pick.
Holy moly!
You can either say, like, tell you what.
Yeah, I'm not sure if your camera's reversed or not. I'm going to say fridge side.
The one in front of the patch?
Yes.
Okay.
Let's patch in some alcohol and see if you get an upgrade.
In the mouth and over the gums. Look out, stomach. Here it comes. That was the Malort.
You have a pretty good Malort face, though. You only a couple of times.
It's weird that it has like a secondary. It's not a burn. It's a tongue scraping, I think, is the.
Oof. I gotta say,
now my runny nose doesn't feel so bad.
They're wonderful, not taking themselves too seriously. Their posters, I saw a bunch of their posters in a bar once, and there's all this like something. It's like being checked. They have like hockey players on and stuff, and yeah.
I see. Malort, because your pants aren't going to spoil themselves. Or I remember one as Malort for when you want to fight your parents.
Yeah, lovely.
But I use it in cocktails. It's a wonderful bitters-like additive. But yeah, by itself, it's I can feel the corners of my mouth like salivating and starting to drool because of
going. Get out!
What's left of it? Like, you drink poison. You know that, right? You drink poison.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Man, you figured it out though. That was, you know what? I'm gonna drink the Lillet anyway.
Maybe it'll help.
Man, Lillet is so good. I highly recommend keeping a bottle in your fridge. There's a red and a white. Both are delicious. I usually keep the white, which is what I had.
I will never be joining you in that game. But for those of you who'd like to, join at a high tier and get to come to live shows with us, maybe we can include you. Maybe people can vote which one you drink. Maybe I'll tell them which one it is.
That would be so mean. To not participate, be like, I know which one it is. Pick that one for him. Well, and by mean, I mean it would be really entertaining. You're right. I think we are roughly at our time. I don't know. I didn't want to overstay my welcome. We got over an hour on the live stream takeover.
I want to thank DragonCon for having us. I am thrilled to be here and be able to take part in this with a fancy bartender dude like you.
Oh, thank you. I thank you for coming with me, because otherwise I would have been staring at the camera, just making weird jokes for an hour and being like, "Wow, I should have planned something." I do see a note. Hold on, let's see. Oh wow. Oh, because it's like in the chat, but it's all of the channels. But it's for what next week's show. I'm going to go ahead and read that, but I have to lean over to get to where my screen is, so you can see my slightly flushed, overlit face. Wait, no, it's messaging more. Hold on, it's scrolling. Stephen Adams will be on Behind the Track and host and track director Charles McFall on Tuesday, 11/14. We are streaming live on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook, which is tonight was the first time we were doing that. So hopefully someone saw it and thought it was okay.
Behind the Track,
which is so the alternating weeks they do the takeovers, which is what we're doing this time, and then a few weeks ago I got to do a Behind the Track, which is where our track director interviews someone else from the track that's been on the track before and talks about what it's like to be on the Dragon Con podcasting media track. Why did someone just shout Charles? Well, I said shout, comment, whatever. That's fine. You do your thing, buddy. But Charles is our venerable leader, and interviews us about our lives and our subject matter expertise and why we're on the media track in general. And everyone has a different and usually joyous story about how they ended up on the Dragon Con media track. Myself, especially being a bartender and a game developer by trade, ending up on the new media track was, even he was like, "So why are you here and not on one of the other ones?" And I'm like, "Oh, I ended up here first, and I like it, like home." So stay tuned. Tune in again. Watch the content on this channel because it's quality. And thank you for September for coming on with me tonight. I appreciate it.
Anytime.
Awesome. I don't have controls of this, so we're probably just going to stare at the screen until they say that we're not live anymore. But until next time, and stay tuned for Tipple Theory. Google it, if nothing else. It's just called Tipple Theory. If you know how to spell Tipple, it's the tip with an LE. It's the LE edition of the tip.
They put our link in there.
Oh, that's right. There's a link for it too.
You should get the website,
I purchased the domain. I will do the rest of something with the domain soon, or I'll just forward it to the Patreon.
There you go.
Something.
And 9of12.com. I've got it directing to our Patreon, but I'll direct the website there when you put something on it.
My bad. I'm sorry. Thank you for saying it was a great show, Shave Maddox. Is that?
That's Shane. Yeah.
Oh, that is Shane. Okay.
Yeah.
I guess we're just gonna stare. Say hey.